Hello, everyone. So I was thinking about something kind of interesting with Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. It's that if you look at it, he has a lot of similarities in what he does and what happens in his life to what happens to Jesus, right? So if you look at it, right, the first commonality is that there's mystery surrounding both's birth, right? Of course, like Jesus is the virgin birth, and Jon Snow, nobody knows who his mother is, right? That's a debate throughout the whole book and show. So that's the first similarity. The second similarity is that both have a similar prophecy about them. Jon Snow is likely Azor Ahai, and according to that prophecy, basically, someone very important to him must basically be sacrificed in order for him to achieve his goals. In the case of Jon Snow, that was probably Daenerys Targaryen, who in the last season he had to kill. In the books, it could be somebody else. And of course, in the Bible was Jesus. He says that he must be raised up like the stick that Moses the stick was the snake on it that Moses rose into the air, right? Which is like his crucifixion, right? He has to be crucified, and that's a part of what has to happen to him in order for him to achieve his goals. And the third similarity is, well, what happens after they're resurrected? So in both cases, of course, people are very happy that this has happened, right? Like it's good that these people were resurrected. People are happy about it. Uh, and the next thing that happens too is they bring judgment to those who are wicked, right? Obviously, in the Bible, right, the wicked are judged at the end of time, and in Game of Thrones, actually, if you think about it, Jon Snow kind of deals with all the wicked characters, right? Like he overthrows Ramsay, which leads to Ramsay's death. Uh, he he hangs everyone who killed him, right? And like Alistair Thorne, for example, he has him killed. And when Daenerys Targaryen burns down King's Landing, well, Jon kills her too, right? He basically brings judgment on everyone. And now I think this is commonality number four, which is basically both of them restore the land. Of course, Jesus in the Bible, right? There's like the new heaven and the new earth that come to basically replace the old, and these are better. They're like a more rejuvenated, better version. And what does Jon Snow do in Game of Thrones? Well, he goes back to the north, the far north, beyond the wall, which has always been this kind of like this land with a bad kind of reputation. You know, this is where like the evil White Walkers or the others, as they're called in the books, live. This is a a very bad place. But Jon Snow goes back there and he helps the wildlings build something better. He rejuvenates the land. And a very important commonality, I think, is this five? I'm not counting really, but this one is pretty important. It didn't happen in the show, but it might happen in the books, which is that both of them basically overthrow and destroy the evil being in the world. Of course, in the show, Arya killed the Night King, not Jon Snow. But I had a video that actually discussed. There's a lot of interesting symbolism with Arya killing the Night King. Uh, but had Jon Snow killed the Night King, or in the books, obviously it's the Great Other, not the Night King. But had Jon Snow basically defeated the evil being, whether you want to call him the Night King or the Great Other. These beings represent death, right? They bring death. They literally they resurrect the dead, but not in the way that Jon Snow is resurrected or Jesus. They bring back basically the worst element of people, which is just the physical. They don't bring back the spirit. They bring back just the raw physical and the desire for hunger and for consumption. Just these evil aspects, right? The wives, as they're called, the undead. They want to consume everything living, right? But they had no spirit. They had no creativity. They just want to consume it. And of course, Jon Snow in the books might actually be the one who defeats the evil being, the Great Other, right? The Night King in the show. Uh, and that would be he destroys the embodiment of death, then, which is just like how in the Bible, uh, death itself is cast into the fire, right? It's actually just destroyed. That's why basically death won't happen anymore in the Bible, right? Uh, and that's very interesting that if Jon Snow had killed the Night King, or in the book he kills the Great Other, if that ends up if that ugh, if that ends up happening in the book, then that's very interesting because now there's just so many similarities. Like it's just fascinating how these two individuals actually fulfill very similar goals in their respective domains. Oh, and I almost completely forgot, but of course, in the show, Jon Snow doesn't become the king, but in the books, if he becomes the king, then that's another kind of similarity, right? He's the king of the seven kingdoms, which is almost like being how Christ is the king of kings, right? The being the king over seven kingdoms is like being a king of kings in a way, right? It's there's a similar kind of a concept there. Of course, it's not as big as being like the king of kings in the sense of Jesus, which is like the king of kings over everybody. But John would then be like the king of kings over the seven kingdoms in that sense. And if this happens in the book, if John becomes king, he'll probably also rejuvenate the entire seven kingdoms, not just the far north, which has been corrupted by the White Walkers, the others. Oh, wow, I almost forgot this one as well. But if you look at it, Jon Snow hangs around people who are not necessarily considered the greatest by most people, not the most morally sound by most people, but he hangs out with them regardless, and he kind of redeems them, right? Which is very similar to how Jesus actually hung out with the people in society. Look, Jesus hung out with the people in society who were not necessarily considered that morally sound, or according to conventional morality, but he basically was like, it's actually the people who kind of maybe aren't the most moral who actually need the redemption, and they need to be around a good role model, right? And Jon Snow, he goes beyond the wall and he makes friendships with a lot of the wildlings who are viewed very poorly by people on the other side of the wall, right? But he kind of redeems them. He unites them with the rest of the seven kingdoms, right? And they work together to actually fight against death itself, the Night King or the Great Other. Oh, and another similarity, I keep coming up with other ones that just pop into my head right when I'm about to end the video. Uh, they both kind of, they can deal with demons, right? If you want to view the lesser White Walkers, the ones below the Night King, or the Great Other, which is the version in the books, right? Jon Snow, he has a Valyrian steel sword, so he can just kill these guys. Most people can't because not everybody has a Valyrian steel sword. Of course, they can do it with obsidian, dragon glass, but it's still basically Jon Snow can basically kill demons, and it's kind of like how in the Bible, Jesus can drop the demons out of people and basically remove them. Uh, so that's another similarity. And I'm about to end the video now, but I'm just uh, another similarity might pop into my head right after I end the video. But if you can see any other similarities, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say and debate each other about this topic. Do you agree with what I'm saying, or do you agree with what someone else in the comments had to say about this topic? I'd love to read those. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. That helps the algorithm so much when you watch the entire video. And if you like and subscribe too, that helps so much. I'm very happy with I looked at the results of the Robert Baratheon video and I was shocked. I did not expect that to hit 1,000 views. And so thank you guys so much. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.